Welcome to Metaphysical. Did you know that historical figures have actually been recorded using superpowers? From Jesus, Moses, and Buddha to Nostradamus, Bruce Lee, and Houdini. The stories we found will astound you. Telekinesis and astral projection were just the beginning in part one, so join remote viewer John Vivanco and me, investigative researcher Rob Counts, for part two of a show that's out of this world.
Heck yeah. So historical figures.
Yeah.
I had not heard that they had superpowers. I had not thought of that before. Actually, what about saints?
Really?
Saints
Yes,
have had superpowers, right?
Yeah. Over at Edge of Wonder, we had a couple of episodes where we just went into this, like the history of superpowers and stuff. And saints were a big part of that, like recorded saints, and not just in the West, like in the East as well, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's weird. It's like that's what makes these guys popular. Because they had superpowers.
Well, it's almost like, especially in the past, right? Like there were two things I think that would spiritual people would give credence to when deciding whether or not someone was really spiritually adept or like high level, however you want to say it, right? One was superpowers. The other was relics that were associated with the saint or the spiritual guru or being or whatever. And I think some of them were recorded as even like the popes or different people got really annoyed with them. They got kicked out of monasteries or excommunicated for having these abilities because, I mean, really, was it that they thought they were demonic, really, or was the Pope or whoever it was jealous of, someone having more abilities than they did? And, this is the strange thing, too, is, abilities in our society. Like, imagine it. Like, if you walked onto the scene with these abilities, immediately everyone would think you're the coolest guy in the room, right? So historically, like, people have like searched for these supernormal abilities. I mean, look at Hitler. I mean, Hitler was out of his mind trying to find power using relics or rituals or any of these things that he could find to try to get those things.
Right. I mean, then like, what about like super soldiers? The idea of the creation of super soldiers and those supranormal abilities that military or intelligence or government wants to create. We know of those stories. Like, how is that different? Okay, well, wait, no, this is going in an interesting place because when you think about it, in the past, when you're talking about like Buddha, for instance, or Jesus, you're talking about spiritual adepts that have created this, I don't know, you call it a superpower by focusing their minds, because it's all about focusing the mind. That is on the spiritual side. But when you get into the whole government side, that's kind of dangerous actually for the military and government, right? Because they need to be able to control their superpower.
100%. And then what happens if they don't control it? I mean,
that's the thing. I mean, even if you talk to the old ex-military remote viewers, those guys are really spiritual now because by doing this over and over again, they've launched themselves into a whole different way of understanding the world, right? And their minds right now probably wouldn't even go into being in that position in the first place, right?
Well, and I think anyone who's serious about research, it's kind of like if you're really giving it a chance and you don't have preconceived notions and you're not looking for a negative answer, you naturally become more spiritual. There was just a guy on Joe Rogan who was an atheist. He was 57 years old. I don't recall his name, but he was trying to prove that Jesus was a conspiracy, or that like spirituality is a conspiracy, and ended up becoming spiritual in the process. And like the whole story was about that. And it's like, you can't really, I believe you can't really avoid that if you're having a serious look. Like, I mean, you go outside and start looking around,
right?
And really looking around. And it's hard not to come to a conclusion that there is some type of divine order to the things that are going on, right?
Exactly. I mean, fractals, fractal within fractal within fractal in nature. I mean, it's intelligence. There is an
100%.
intelligence in patterns.
Well, and then there's this idea, you know, like, I mean, think about it with your mind. You know, there was Dr. Emoto who was showing that the mind could influence snowflakes or water just by having a thought and pointing the thoughts at it or saying certain things to the water. It was changing
Right.
the crystals when they would crystallize into ice. Now,
Right.
that's a human being's kind of like a rather, you know, low energy thought going towards water. If you are somehow become very spiritually adept, maybe the abilities become even stronger, the energy gets stronger, and the ability to create becomes even greater.
Right. Well, I mean, that's the thing, that most people's energy is spent with incessant thinking, monkey mind. But when you sit there and meditate for a while, you're concentrating, you're not using the faculty of thought, and all that energy is going somewhere else. It's building up inside of you. And that is the root of the superpowers.
Yeah, and
In
a
my
lot of
opinion.
people, and there's a lot of people who think, oh, meditating, you know, depending on what school of thought you're in, right? Meditating isn't good for you, or it's evil, or something like that. No, no, no. You can look at meditating like pray. If you do you pray, because you could say the same thing about praying, yet it's not, because you're, you know, you're in communion with something greater when you're meditating. You may not be saying anything or even thinking anything, but it is that experience, and
Right.
it's
Yeah, I
important
mean,
to bridge that.
types.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Different types of meditation for different purposes. The you know, the highest purpose is enlightenment in a sense, and then helping others. Um, that that path of meditation versus like a path to gain superpowers are totally different things.
Well, yes, of course. Yeah. And I mean, like honestly, no situation on planet Earth has ever really worked out by human beings like really erratically pursuing something. You
Right.
know, it's like, don't do that's a bad idea. Like that's something that I myself have, you know, it's wisdom that I have come to in my own life, is that
Exactly.
it's, you know, you have to be really careful about what you're pursuing and where your mind is at.
Yeah, you
And a
do.
higher form of letting go and becoming more spiritual is just that, I believe, is like, you know, it's letting go of these things, and just if you can insert just a little bit more selflessness into your life every day, you know, even after a year, you just feel better. Your body looks better. Everything feels better, you know? That guy's
That's
faking
been
it
my
for
experience.
sure. Just kidding. um, yeah, same. So there's so many stories here, and a couple of these I don't think that you've heard about, John. And I really kind of want to get your reaction here. So have you heard of monk Qigong?
No, I haven't.
So
Wait, is Qigong? Is this, you know, Qigong? Is this the
no,
same as Qi? I mean, is this
no, that was
the
actually
guy
his
who
name.
created it? Huh. But I mean,
Yeah.
is he the creator of the idea of Qigong type
No,
of practices?
no,
Okay.
Qigong predates
It
this monk
predates.
by
Okay, got it.
many, many, many. I mean, we're talking about Qigong being in existence in Chinese culture as long as Chinese culture existed, because Qigong, actually, that word Qigong was created in this, I think it was the 60s or the 70s, basically to stay under the radar from the Chinese Communist Party. Because if
Ah,
you came across as being spiritual or religious during that time when the Chinese Communist Party was conducting the Great Cultural Revolution, or I don't even want to call it great, the Cultural Revolution, they were killing anyone who was spiritual, basically, at the
yeah.
time. But if you were just doing exercises, if you were just practicing qigong, oh, it's fine, right? Like that can
Right.
go under the radar,
So it
because
was a way to keep it hidden.
yeah, and you're kind of keeping the divine discussion out of the entire thing, which the, you know, communists wanted to avoid. So it was a way for the communists to leave a little bit of the Chinese culture in their society without just like completely, but it was also like, if anyone wanted to practice anything, you call it qigong, and it was sort of like your ticket into being able to practice something spiritual and get away with it, you
I
know?
see. Right. Well,
And
you know, I mean, actually, like before you, I mean, Qigong is something that I do like regularly in general. And it actually really helps with remote viewing. Just putting that
a
out there.
million percent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. And there's loads and loads of testimonials that will say the same thing. To understand Qigong, like you could even, a lot of people will kind of, I think they compartmentalize it into being something specific from China, actually, and it is. But any cultivation practice could be a form of Qigong. Okay, so when you're talking about yoga, could be a form of Qigong.
It could be a form of it.
Tai
right?
Chi, form of Qigong, right? Whatever, whatever the Karate Kid was doing could be a form of Qigong. Wow, look at his posture there. That's just inspirational. Yeah, so Qigong actually was a monk, and he had one of these stories that we kind of brought up in the past where he just had, he was a monk. He was involving in spiritual practice on a daily basis, trying to improve himself day over day. And he has some of the most powerful supernormal abilities and stories left from China. Now there was this temple that was being built, and they desperately needed wood to build this temple, but the best wood was found about 900 miles away from where they wanted to make the temple, right? And the monks were desperate, so Ji Gong actually used his powers to bring the logs over one after another, coming up through a well. So he was plucking the trees down into the dirt and bringing them up through a well where they needed to actually make the temple. When the monks had enough, Jigong was still in the middle of bringing one over, so he just stopped it, and it remained half submerged in the well. Later generations built a pavilion over it, naming it the Divine Teleportation Well.
Wow, that's nuts. That's actually something that I'd like to put in the remote viewing queue. That's really interesting.
Dude, for real. Actually, Ji Gong is probably one of the coolest guys that you guys could remote view, because his life was such amazing stuff from the stuff that I heard. Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely one that's going in the queue. That's a really incredible story. I mean, I wonder what other stories are of this guy, because that's really like.
Well, he was called the Mad Monk.
The Mad Monk.
They called him the Mad Monk. Yeah, and there's another story of him. I'll tell you it. So so the story basically goes that Monk Jigong felt something was amiss and used his powers to see that a mountain peak was about to come crashing down on a nearby village. Right? He is a precog too. So he warned the townspeople, who just thought he was insane, and that's when he spotted a wedding procession. Okay, so he sees a wedding procession going on in this town. He barges in, he snatched the bride, he threw her over his shoulder, and just started running.
Huh.
Okay, so before long, the entire village was chasing after him, and when they got past the village gate, sure enough, the mountain peak totally collapsed, landing on the village and flattening buildings. He rescued the village. Crazy.
That's interesting.
Okay, but that's not it. So there was a little girl staggering behind with a giant boulder thundering towards her. Jigong aimed his palm at the boulder and forced it back with his powers. Today, that boulder is called Hangzhou's Flying Peak. And today you can see the imprint of a hand sunk into the base of the rock.
What? That is really what?
This is okay. This is not it. This is an example.
Oh,
I'm just pulling up an example. I'm trying to give you guys a visual at home.
Yeah.
That's a crazy story, right?
That's really interesting. Actually, that reminds me, minus the, moving of the boulder, 1966 in Aberfan in England, where coal slurry, there were these guys that were mining, and there was coal slurry that came down and covered a village, and like 140 people, I think, died. Majority of those were children covered with coal slurry. When it was investigated afterwards, tons of townspeople had the precog that something really bad was going to happen through dreams or whatever. But your story reminds me of that, the mountain sliding down on the village. But I think that people have that sort of precog. Everybody has that precog ability, I believe, you know, and I don't think it's something special in general, because I think that all of this stuff, like our psychic senses developed for the purpose of survival.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it, right? Or finding food. I mean, we don't need to use it anymore because it's like, you know, we know which roads to drive. There are grocery stores everywhere. What do we need it for
right.
food, right? It's like we can use it for saving our lives and others' lives in general. So I think this is an ability that people have. And before any major disaster, you will hear that people had dreams about it or whatever. In fact, before all the COVID stuff happened, I had a precog that something really bad was going to happen and people would be locked in their homes. So much so that I called a bunch of friends of mine. This was like in October beforehand.
Dude, that's a couple months before you and I went to Australia.
A couple months before that, I woke up one morning and I'm like, people are going to be locked in their homes. We're going to need food. We have to get supplies now. So I'm like, I don't even know what it was about. I just felt it. I knew it. So I started calling some friends that I knew in different cities saying, you got to do this. You got to get food. We're going to be locked in our homes. They're just like, you're insane. Sorry, but you're insane.
And then sure enough, it happens.
Sure enough, it happens, right? So I think we have this ability. And I think that the ability really comes out before natural disasters, ultimately.
Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah. Oh, man, I'm so glad we entered into this conversation using Qigong, because the whole and Qigong in general, because have you ever Qigong is a very vast conversation. When you start talking about Qigong, you can't not talk about all of the different schools that are across China, martial arts, all kinds of things. And when people, you know, we were talking about when you start meditating, different things kind of happen, right? Well, actually, for some people too, when they start doing martial arts, certain things start happening. Their body is moving in certain ways, and it's a way that their body hasn't moved. Have you heard of the ability called the hard Qigong?
No,
It's basically like, it's like an invulnerability. And
okay, so you're basically kind of turning into a rock.
Like you can literally throw knives at that body. Now, I'm not telling you at home to do that. I'm saying when someone is in this state, what is alleged is that, you know, their body is in this extremely hard state, and it's not just their body, but also their hands, where they can actually like punch rock and it will destroy the rock, because they're in a state where their energy is at a certain potency, and perhaps the energy is moving around and it will take the impact from whatever it is that's attempting to hit them.
Right. It's like a buildup of chi that can be used as a barrier. And, you know, it's like, okay, so I've taken a lot of Kung Fu, and there was Qigong involved in that as well. Like, you know, going back and forth, learning both. And I remember other people in the class that were trying to get their body to that point. And I didn't know the term for it, but I know that they were trying to do that. They were also trying to get to a point where they had chi in their movements and their punches and stuff like that, which, I mean, I never really focused on that. I just wanted to move energy, and I really loved the movements of it. And I could feel the energy in my body. It's like, it's really interesting to me the way people go toward, I want to use it for fighting. I want to be able to, because I am absolutely positive that if you develop that enough, you can do a simple movement into somebody that will kill them with little effort on your part by pushing that chi.
Well, there was a dude, okay, the guy who developed Tai Chi, Zhang Somfeng, I think his name was. It was said and it was written back in the day that when he was doing Tai Chi, people could not get within like 200 feet of him.
Wow.
That he was so powerful. His energy was so powerful. People could even see the energy that he was moving around, the Tai Chi actually that he was moving around while he was doing it. And I mean, you know, if that's true, that's completely insane. I mean, and
I can believe that.
Right.
I mean, I can believe that.
Well, and then you get to guys like Bruce Lee, right? Who people think had supernormal abilities. Like he trained in martial arts from the age of 6, became one of the most skilled martial artists in the world, right? He easily defeated men much larger, multiple opponents at once. Everyone at the time will tell you that no one wanted to get in the ring with Bruce Lee. Chuck Norris, all those guys were like, no one could beat Bruce. It was a thing, right? He was 128 pounds and 5'8", That's very, very slender. And
Yeah.
he developed the 1-inch punch, and cameras weren't fast enough to track what he was doing.
Wow.
Now, this 1-inch punch is like, everybody talks about this, right? And then now that's Joe Louis, world heavyweight karate champion,
Jeez.
sent back several feet from getting punched with the 1-inch punch. Now, a lot of people, okay, yes, Bruce Lee died a young age, definitely had a lot of he was searching for fame. There's a lot of that.
He wasn't part of that 27 club, was he?
I don't think so. How old was Bruce? 33, I think.
Okay.
Just still an occult number or an esoteric number, depending on how you look at it.
Didn't his son die as well later on?
Brandon Lee. Okay, yes. So check this out. I have a story for you. You want to hear this?
Yeah.
All right. A lot of people think, oh, Bruce just died, whatever, right? In martial arts in the past, in ancient martial arts, I have a theory here, okay, that when martial artists would get up to a certain point, you're not just playing a martial arts game here. Your energy is developing, it's getting more potent, and other beings are becoming aware of you and your skills.
Yeah.
You start, whether in dreams or in a meditative state, they're coming across other beings. John, so there was a movie about Bruce Lee in the 90s. It was called Dragon, the Bruce Lee story. If you watch this movie, I actually think this was disclosure. I think this is what really happened to Bruce Lee. He was becoming too skilled at martial arts. There were beings that were sensing him and his and were starting to challenge him to match his, maybe here, maybe in another dimension. And I don't think he could get himself away from these beings. And so what ended up happening is eventually, if you don't get the memo on letting go of competition and all of these things, and you keep engaging in that activity, eventually it takes your life. Your energy gets depleted and it takes your life.
Right. Yeah, I'm in agreement with that. I mean, it's all about like attracting to you what you're acting out all the time. It's just
right. And
happen.
this guy is quoted as saying that he wanted to become the most famous actor in Hollywood. And so, you have all of this skill, you're training harder than anyone else. You're becoming more and more probably super normal over time. And then eventually it's like, well, can it hold ground or not? And
right. Yeah. And you're in the whole like really dark energy realm of Hollywood too. And if that's what you're striving for.
He was getting closer and closer,
Yeah. That's kind of unfortunate, but I mean, that's what it is. It's like people want to use this stuff for some kind of selfish personal gain.
So yeah,
that matters.
A little correction here. Wikipedia says that he was 32 years old when he died.
32. Okay. So yeah, not 27 Club. Sounds like something totally different. That's really fascinating.
Now, a lot of these martial art movies, you see them like flying through the air and all of that stuff, and that's actually all based in Chinese, Japanese tradition of these abilities acquiring over time, and you being able to do certain things that other people could not do. But one example that's on a completely different side of the earth of someone flying was Joseph of Cupertino, who was known as the Flying Friar.
It's like the Flying Nun.
Right. Like the Mad Monk, the Flying Friar. They have great names for these guys, So he was apparently so pious that he could not stop levitating during.
Oh yeah, that's a great painting. That is a great painting.
And he was basically, this is an example of what I was saying. He was ostracized and denounced by the Catholic Holy Inquisition. Over 70 instances of Joseph levitating have been recorded. Okay. And as word spread about this incredible friar, people came to him to seek advice and confess their wrongdoing. So Joseph was able to help many people in his lifetime, reportedly.
Wow.
And it's just, the people's like, he was very pious. Like the clergy was just getting really upset because, you know, he'd start flying in the middle of mass and like everybody be looking at him, and it was causing a lot of a distraction to the service.
Yeah. I mean, like, look at this. Like the whole theme, underlying theme here is spirituality. Developing it depends on when you get into martial arts. It's kind of a split path there where you can
totally agree.
The spirituality side or the body side, the body desire materialist side, or the spiritual side. But more so, it just seems to be related to spirituality, like focusing the mind, focusing the body. Ultimately, I mean, the friar's not going to be doing, you know, martial arts to any degree. He's just, you know, praying and meditating for the most part. So it's going to be the underlying thing of all these super normal abilities is spirituality. Unless you get into, I don't know, what would the government have to do here? The government would be more on this, or military would be on the side of using drugs, changing genetic.
To blow those open, yeah.
Right, to blow those open, because here's the thing, like, unless you're like Bruce Lee and are really like a materialist and want to be something on the physical level with your martial arts skills, you're not going to be able to be controlled, because you have to develop this through the mind power that you have. So the government or military is going to have to like develop a way to keep control of you. Like, look at the Jason Bourne series.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's a true thing. I mean, what they have there is a true thing. Supranormal ability to a degree that they have to control and almost keep hidden from another part of a person's consciousness. I mean, that's really what it comes down to when you get to the super soldier side. Changing genetic DNA in a person for specific types of abilities, but also somehow trying to keep control of it.
Yeah.
If you have them go into like more of a mind-focused spiritual side of it, they I don't know, they would break out of the whole situation in the end, is my guess, because it doesn't jibe with a spiritual mindset.
Well, and we've got, I mean, you know, then we've got, you know, guys like Jesus made a blind man see, healed illnesses, fed thousands of people with only a few loaves of bread and few fish, was reportedly so light he could walk on water, you know, similar to this Joseph of Cupertino in that way, right? Moses, I mean, parts the Red Sea, made water come out of a stone, set 10 plagues upon Egypt. You know, gosh, that one's crazy. You know, water turned to blood, frogs, lice, wild animals, flies, pestilence of livestock, boils, thunderstorm of hail and fire, locusts, darkness for 3 days, death of firstborn sons, because of that's
a superpower.
Well, I don't think it was his in that case. Maybe they had done something so grievous that, you know, he kind of only probably had to say a couple of words, and he was like, you know, who's behind me? Maybe, I don't know, you know.
Right.
The parting of the Red Sea being like, you know, the craziest in a sense of all of those.
These are the religious superheroes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That all come from like connection to source, God, whatever you want to call it. Like literally that's where it comes from. It's interesting to me. It's like, and this is something that's outside of our thinking mind. Again, you know, it's like, go back to that. Like what are the practices that people are doing in order to have that connection to source, to God, and to be able to be a better person with superpowers? That's what it is. I mean, really, that's what it comes down to.
And would we even know about them if they had that many abilities? I mean, really think about it. If it was something that could really interrupt human society, and they got their powers by being like wise or pious or you know, like spiritually adept, they would know enough not to disturb anything or people. Right.
Well, you know, these things also come from a buildup of lifetime after lifetime, you know, where you're practicing a certain, I mean, take one human in one lifetime, like Bruce Lee, for instance. I mean, how long, if we're talking about reincarnation here, ultimately, how long how many lifetimes did a person lead until they got to that point where they became a master beginning at like 5 years old, you know? I mean,
Well,
that's like a development of a skill over lifetime.
Well, and then why do some people come who are more like,
there is no spoon, right?
Yeah.
That whole thing is like, it's the recognition that you are it and not it. It's you. It's there and it's not there. You are it and not it. And so that whole recognition is like understanding that you are part of everything, that you are that. So your mind can move into it, you know? And I think
I was so fixated on that guy's hair that I didn't even notice that those spoons were bending in that image.
I know. But it's like, I think that some people don't understand why they do this stuff. And these types of spiritual or psychic gifts are something that, well, I think Edgar Cayce said it. He said that being psychic or having these types of gifts is because you as an individual have developed yourself spiritually to a certain degree, to a certain extent. But, you know, people will get caught up in the gifts and then they'll start to retreat back from that kind of stuff, right?
because then it becomes about the gift.
It becomes about the gift.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
This is Edgar Cayce right here. Edgar Cayce was known as the sleeping
prophet.
The sleeping prophet. And he had the power of retrocognition. Essentially, he had kind of retold the story of the fallen Atlantis. If you guys haven't checked out his books, like he has a lot of that in there. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of
in this photograph. Like, did they try to make him look spooky, or does he just really look spooky?
I don't know. It's sort of like that guy Yuri you just showed too. Like there's some look in his eyes. Like Houdini had the same look where I'm just like, dude, back off. Just stop looking at it like that.
Stop it. Just stop it. All right.
Yeah. I know Houdini. I know you're mysterious, Houdini, but can you stop creeping out on me? Seriously. I know. That's Edgar Cayce when he got older. He looks like
he's calmed down on the spooky.
Yeah. Houdini, however, he didn't get a chance to become a sweet old man. He just looked like a creeper.
Yeah, he did, didn't he?
He had too many straitjackets he was putting on.
I know.
Yeah, we'll get into Houdini in a second, but we were talking about some of these healing abilities, and it wasn't just Jesus who had these healing abilities. In the Far East, there were a few Chinese medicine doctors, like guys like a guy named Bian Cui, Li Shijian, Sun Si Miao, and Hua Tuo. Those four guys who all had like advanced abilities, and they were multiple different kinds of abilities, not just healing. Like some of them saw stuff. They could see into the human body. They could find where the ailments are and then tell you how to resolve them, right? Some, like one of them was so advanced, I think his name was Hua Tuo. He told the emperor that he had a brain tumor. He wanted to do surgery on the the emperor. Wanted to do brain surgery on the emperor. The emperor thought in his hubris that he meant to murder him by even bringing that up.
Hey, Rob, wait, I'm seeing something. Hey, can I do brain surgery on you, man?
Yeah, right. I understand that, but this guy was known for healing people.
Right.
Think about that, right? Yeah. There's a history there where the emperor could not very difficult to find.
It's still creepy.
Still creepy, but yes, and I understand. But so anyway, let's see what happens here, right? So he imprisons this guy, Hua Tuo. Hua Tuo dies in prison, and then a couple of weeks, months later, he starts having the repercussions from the brain tumor and then passes away himself because he couldn't resolve this. Right. So there's a lot of stories in ancient China about all these abilities that they were using to move their arts forward. Like, how did they figure all of that stuff out about Chinese herbs? Really think about it. I don't just think all of it was experimentation. It couldn't be that advanced. When you hear about what some of these things do to your body and how it does it, like their understanding was on a completely different level,
Right. Well, like that guy, John of God. I'm just kidding.
Oh man, I love this show.
I was going to take you down this path here, but I had to stop. No.
Okay, yeah. So, gosh, so many things to talk about here. There's a couple of others that I'd like to bring up that um, are kind of interesting. So, one is this guy Nicholas Flamel. So, have you heard of Nicholas Flamel?
Mm-mm. Who's this?
Nicholas Flamel is a very mysterious figure from history that, to be honest, I would like to do a larger dig on, because a lot of what we see today about people pursuing immortality comes originally, well, not originally, but one of the stories that's constantly brought up in that discussion is the story of Nicholas Flamel. Nicholas Flamel, she's bringing up a photo of what Nicholas Flamel looked like in the Harry Potter, one of the Harry Potter series. So, you know, J.K. Rowling was very well researched. Did I say her name right? J.K. Rowling, excuse me. She was very well researched, and so she ended up bringing a lot of these historical characters into her, into her stories, which are basically just a ripoff of Lord of the Rings. Because I know Lindsay loves when I say that. Okay, so Nicholas Flamel. Okay, there's a guy back in the day. He's working in a rare books shop, finds a book with information in it about how to obtain immortality, pursues immortality, basically is then said to have lived 600 years or something like that, and then kind of fell off the face of the earth. And people think that he just went away and obtained more immortality.
Huh.
Yeah. And now,
like the Saint Germain story.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. And what's weird is that a very similar story is told in the movie The Ninth Gate, which stars Johnny Depp. And that was all about immortality through finding the devil, basically.
Right.
Which was like a sick movie, really. Right. The whole thing was a sick movie. And what's weird is they reference a lot of occult stuff in that movie that no one should really know about. But how did that director know about that stuff? Like, right. I only found this stuff through like hours and hours of crazy research, and like they're bringing it up casually in a movie, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Like, you know, and what's weirdest about that is we're talking about this being a Roman Polanski film, The Ninth Gate. Roman Polanski, who had to leave the United States for being accused of basically sexually abusing children, underage children. And, you know, he goes over and he's in Europe. He makes this movie about the devil. And it's like, you're not helping your case, bro. Not helping your case here. Anyway, Nicholas Flamel's story seems very similar to the main character's story in that movie, because he's working in a rare books shop. He finds the Necronomicon, which they call the Delamalanicon. And then he finds the answer from Lucifer on how to obtain more immortality. So they kind of like merged those two stories into one in this movie. If you want to understand how the occult people, the crazy occult people of this world think, that's a good place to start that movie. Right. It basically tells that pretty well. And now, along with that discussion with Nicholas Flamel, is turning one substance into another, transmutation. Turning metals into gold, which have long been the desire of alchemists and alchemy, especially back in the day in England, when, you know, creating a fortune magically was what would make your ability to rule last longer.
Right.
And most of these magicians were hired on, basically to further that desire, that effort to obtain more gold in the empire or in the kingdom. Yeah, and we've got a lot of examples of that, and in history that we can actually do in another show revolved around sorcery or something like that.
Oh yeah.
But transmutation is a thing, and it's a thing that's been around for a really long time. And in the arts in the West, people will reference alchemy. In the East, they reference alchemy too. It's just called something different, and they're said to be able to change metals into other substances. They're able to change one thing into another. I mean, perhaps this is how Moses pulled water out of the rock. I mean, or, you know, there is water in there, so maybe he just pulled it out. I don't know, but it's strange.
Yeah. I mean, are these, I don't know. I mean, where do you draw the line on like what we consider a supernormal ability as far as this stuff goes, though? I mean, I don't know. I really don't know what I'm trying to point out here. It's like,
think about Star Wars, John. Okay. Like if you think about Star Wars, George Lucas based that off of Taoism, right? Kind of loosely.
yeah.
So Luke, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I mean, no, I get it. I'm just thinking, like, are we talking about like something that happens? It's like all of a sudden a higher source of energy moves through a person, and then it never moves through that person again, right? I mean, it seems like some of this stuff is literally just a momentary blip where there's, through no development of their own, has shot through them, and then something miraculous has happened. I mean, is that a supranormal ability? Is that what it is, or is it a supernormal ability something that is continually like growing within a person?
I think the latter, personally.
Yeah.
Because think about it, like, you know, that example of Star Wars I was bringing up is very similar to a martial artist or one of these healers in the East who were developing their craft. This thing was growing, and their abilities came out more and more as they developed this craft.
Right.
You know, and like, you know, could be martial arts. In Star Wars, it was like sword fighting. They even use a crystal for the technology, which was like, really think about it, like a kind of an outrageous concept. And you know, like you're learning how to hone that, and you have to make a decision if you want to go evil or go good.
Right.
You know?
Well, I mean, I guess what the choke that Darth Vader did.
The force choke.
The force choke. Right. Yeah.
What an ability that was.
Well, I mean, think about like our third dimensional reality here. Things take time. You have to have physical impact in order to make some kind of mark on it.
Sure.
Right. I mean, that's the standard idea that we have here. But when you move into other dimensional reality, higher dimensional reality, for instance, intent creates force in and of itself. So when I see these kinds of things like Darth Vader, you know, squeezing his throat, it's like beings are, well, they have this like fourth dimensional aspect that is incredibly developed. So much so that they can use it to touch and impact physical, which to me is not out of the, I don't know. It seems like something that should be natural. You know, it seems like it's something, you know, you ever have dream at night where you're flying and you're like flying and you're like, I always knew I could do this. And like, it seems like it's always the same. Oh yeah, I always knew I can do this. And then you wake up and you're disappointed.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
It's like that, you know? And I think these are literally, man, what makes it so? Is it the buildup of chi over lifetime over lifetime? Is it some God-given jolt that moves through you in an instant? What is it? What is the very source core of this? Is it alchemy? Like doing spells and magic to make it happen? I mean,
I think some of this stuff happens through an art, but I mean, look at like, there's, you know, guys like Nostradamus and the Buddha. Okay. So Nostradamus like was known to have this ability his whole life. I mean,
before telling the future.
Yeah. Books that were like highly accurate. I mean, or I mean, some of them were vague. I think humans have to figure some things out, you know, sometimes.
Well, it's a lot like sometimes remote viewing data where things can be very metaphorical, and you have to kind of understand how to read the metaphor.
And then there's other things too, like when, how deep do these powers go, really? Because it's like the Buddha saw that there was 3,000 worlds in a single grain of sand, you know? And I mean,
3,000 worlds in every
like grain of sand that was in that world.
That's the fractals, those like inward fractals that go on forever.
The quantum realm of just like never ending universe, which, you know, if that's true, which I think it is.
It is true. I mean, he was describing quantum physics, atomic particles, world of that. That's what he was doing. And so a lot of what he had said can be applied to physics, quantum mechanics.
Yeah.
which is fascinating. I mean, but think about it. I mean, like you perceive the nature of the universe in that state by stepping outside of this. It's like this. Okay, so our brain keeps us extrapolating and abstracting into ideas and concepts, and ideas and concepts off of ideas and concepts. And then we live in this bubble, illusory world of ideas and concepts about everything, constantly thinking about this and that, this and that, this and that. It's where all of our energy goes. But when we step outside of it and go silent inside of ourselves, we're moving into another zone, another place where everything exists. It's oneness. That's what, when people go meditate, they begin to get a sense of oneness about everything. And they start going, wow, everything, I'm one with everything. I mean, that's what happens when you step out of this place, out of the divisions of the mind, the thinking mind. And in that oneness, at least, that's why I'm asking. It's like, where do supernormal abilities come from? Because to me, they come from stepping outside of this, ultimately. That seems to be the big thing. The understanding of having to step outside of this and move into a different aspect of what this is will bring about the so-called superpowers.
Well, and also maybe to connect in better with your body in the first place, because when you're too in that place, and the concerns and the worries are just flooding your mind, how do you break out of that and see something that's much bigger? You can't. You have to be able to do that. We're almost running out of time here, so I want to kind of thank everyone for watching. First of all, also encourage all of you guys to like and subscribe and follow us on social media. Look for us, Metaphysical, a Metaphysical podcast. We're going to pop up on Instagram. We're going to pop up on TikTok, wherever you guys are. And definitely podcast, give us a 5-star rating and review so we can reach more people if you like the content that you're listening to. And I kind of want to set this up a little bit because we've got a lot of stuff that, John and I kind of want to go through and talk about. But one of the most interesting things I found recently was that there's more to the story of Harry Houdini than I thought. There were people accusing Harry Houdini of suppressing the powers of lesser psychics.
What do you mean?
His abilities were so strong that he could suppress other people's abilities. So one actress actually claimed, I mean, he looks creepy, don't get me wrong, but one actress actually claimed that Houdini used his powers to put a leg she had amputated back on her body.
What?
Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, the writer of the Sherlock Holmes books that everyone loves now, and Harry Houdini used to argue all the time, and Doyle tried to get Houdini to admit that he had superpowers. And
that's interesting.
And also Houdini may have sought out Edgar Cayce. Now, what's really interesting about this is this gets even crazier because Sir Arthur Conan Doyle was highly involved in the Jack the Ripper scandal that was going down over in Britain. And people over there claimed that Jack the Ripper was a very, very powerful sorcerer. So at home, would you guys like us to go over some of this at some point? Please comment below and let us know. And yeah, we're going to leave you on this cliffhanger because I want to know about this too. What about you, John?
Absolutely. And I got to say that there is a psychic pump phenomena that happens where there can be I'm an individual, when I teach remote viewing, I can increase people's psychic ability. And there is that thing where someone can take it away and block it as well.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to test that out in the same room sometime.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you guys at home, thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this episode of Metaphysical and the previous one. Definitely go back and watch that about remote viewing and supernormal abilities, part 1. And yeah, do you have anything else to add, John?
I'm just trying to think of what. Be vigilant and stay serious.
I think let's just go ahead and nix that and just thank people for going out of this world for us or something, or with us rather. I don't know what I'm saying.